podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Stat Me Up for Anfield Index. So it's a busy time, isn't it, ladies and gents? Even though it goes a little bit quiet on the back of the Reds fixture list. But as normal, we'll be talking about the things you expect. So we'll do a bit of a review of Arsenal. We'll keep it brief, I promise. We'll talk about everything Dominic SZOBOSZLAI and the news that's come out. We'll talk about Burnley and that upcoming fixture this weekend and looking at a few stats from our history there. And we'll hopefully be uplifting everyone when we talk about runs and results on the back of defeats. It's never about the setback, is it, ladies and gents? It's always about the comeback, as it were. And to join me, as ever, I've got the Hungarian stat hipster himself, the man with the knowledge, the man who's causing waves on Twitter nowadays as well, Ben Bocksak. Ben, how are we?
Yeah, great to be on. Been a busy few days, but yeah, I'm looking forward to clearing everything up, hopefully, because I know there's a lot of confusion on Twitter. I've seen a lot of comments, so I will address that when we get to it.
Yeah, no doubts about that. Don't worry, we will get to it, I absolutely promise. But let's get the bad part out of the way quickly, Ben, and go to it. I mean, Sunday, horrific, fair to say, pretty horrific.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to watch, let's be honest. I think apart from, after Liverpool got the equaliser, and I think the first 15, sort of 20 minutes, that's when Liverpool had a bit of momentum in the game. Didn't create chances or anything, but it just looked like we had the upper hand and we had a lot of the ball and we were trying to create something. And then obviously there were a few changes.
Yeah,
Arsenal go on to score, and then the red card and everything just went against Liverpool on the night. And I think it's just very uncharacteristic errors as well. I think even with Konate, I know he got quite lucky earlier on in the season when he had a similar sort of situation against Everton and subbed him off. But it is sort of uncharacteristic for him to make those kind of mistakes. And I think that just sums up Liverpool's night, really. There was a lot of mistakes. But again, I think with context, given the preparation going into this game, given obviously the really unfortunate timing of Conor Bradley's dad passing away, prepare for that, and obviously it's really heartbreaking for him. So rightfully he got time to, grieve and process the situation. But I think obviously he could have been involved, just based on the fact that Alexander-Arnold got subbed off after the first hour. Then obviously Dominic SZOBOSZLAI, who we'll touch on, he kind of pulled out last minute, so he was probably in the initial starting 11. And again, Darwin Núñez was another one who didn't start. He was sort of 50-50 where he would start. So we had a lot of players coming in last minute who Klopp might not have even wanted to start. So I think given the context, the defeat seems less bad. And I think even just looking at the context of the performance, so one thing I wanted to highlight, it's really hard to access sort of pressure statistics these days.
Yeah.
But one of the best sort of alternatives, if you're looking at FBref or a statistical website like that, is recoveries made. So how many ball recoveries Liverpool have made. And against Arsenal, it was 36. And I just wanted to sort of compare that to the last 4 games. So against Chelsea in the Premier League, we made 60 ball recoveries. Against
Wow.
Bournemouth, it was 61. Newcastle was 59, and then Burnley it was 51. So yes, I think Arsenal let us have the ball. So maybe the recoveries are not as high because we had the ball more.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I think that kind of suggests, the pressing game wasn't there. And then obviously Klopp mentioned that Liverpool wanted Alexander-Arnold on the ball more. That didn't happen. We didn't create enough chances. There was just one shot on target. So yeah, I think overall it was just a bad day in the office. But if we look at the context and the fact that this was such a huge game for Arsenal and they were always going to turn up, like this was going to be their Champions League, and we saw from the celebration that this was their Champions League final. It was always going to be a tough one for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Everything that went wrong could go wrong. Like you say, bad days at the office for all the main players as well. Trent, VVD, and Alisson. We'll give them passes this time as well. And yeah, I dug out a few stats of my own, maybe have inspired me. And I saw against Chelsea, the team pressed or ran further, I should say, for another 9.1k, which is a huge difference, isn't it? I think just everything caught up with them, and the injuries, like you say, played a part, and how we had to play. But alas, that is done, and we move on. I suppose it is important to ask you this, because it could easily just label everyone the same, but that isn't right to do. Was there anyone who did okay according to the stats or metrics that we should say, yeah, actually he did okay, single him out even?
Yeah, I thought, considering the circumstances, I thought McAllister was pretty good. I think he's the only one who kind of comes out of this game with a bit of credit to him.
Yeah.
I think he, just from the top of my head, I'm pretty sure he won the most duels in the game on the pitch. He definitely created the most chances for Liverpool, which is not a lot. It was only 2, so there's not a lot of chances. But I think he also drew the most fouls. And then on top of that, I'm pretty sure he had the joint most shots as well, which from a midfield, and considering we know McAllister doesn't really take that many shots, again, it just kind of sums up how poor Liverpool's attack were on the night, that he was taking the most shots. I mean, he did have 3, to be fair, which is quite a lot for him, but still, I think, for me, he comes out with a bit of credit, because I thought he did okay, especially given Arsenal's midfield is one of the better ones in the Premier League for sure.
True, and especially because in all the questions that have been around Alexis as number 6, I thought he battled and did very well, and unfortunately quite often with little support at times as well. I know they moved Curtis deeper, but for that little period in the second half, that was about it for what he has support. But it's done, it's dusted, we move on. Now, aside from I won't make you explain yourself on this call, Ben, why you didn't give me the exclusive on the SZOBOSZLAI news. We'll come back to that another time, and we'll definitely be picking that up, ladies and gents, later. But you've no doubt, I know you've been asked thousands of questions galore on this and what's going on. I think it is important we discuss this, because I've seen your tweet, I know I've spoken to you, and then I've already seen people almost taking part of that tweet and twisting it. I was like, no, that was clearly not what was said, and I think it's always good just to clarify it fully. So maybe it's a simple question that will require a bit of detail as well. What is the latest with Dominik Szoboszlai?
Well, I believe he's back in Liverpool now, or at least on his way. I'm pretty certain he's back already. Not 100% on that, but obviously Monday was a day off, as it is on these weeks for Liverpool, when there are no midweek matches. Obviously, Klopp said it himself before the Arsenal game. He felt a little bit of pain in the same injury area where he had his injury. Missed most of January, so he went back to Hungary, met in the national team headquarters with a specialist that he knows from his Leipzig days. The last time he actually had quite a serious injury, that was the specialist that he worked with, and obviously he he had permission from the club to do this as well, because a lot of
Yeah.
people are like, well, why are Liverpool sending, why aren't Liverpool's doctors looking at him? Liverpool's doctors are going to be looking at him as well. But he himself, I think it just speaks of his professionalism, on his day off decided to get it checked up with someone who knows his body well, knows his body for years now, and obviously he wanted to get an opinion. Sometimes it's good to have a second opinion as well. So yeah, he did that. The doctor himself, as I understand, couldn't find anything. So there were no tears or any further damage. So that is good news.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a muscle injury. So that's why I said it in my tweets. Obviously, in the Hungarian media, they've given this prognosis, I think, of 3 to 4 weeks, which is just way too premature at this stage to even suggest that it'll be 3 to 4 weeks. It's a sort of injury that develops, and obviously you have to be careful with it. And I think Liverpool will be careful with it. But from what I understand, it's not going to be as long. And best case scenario, I think he'll be back on the pitch very soon and back training very soon. I don't want to give a timescale on it because it is a muscle injury and you just never know. But I think those 3 to 4 weeks, talking about missing the Carabao Cup final and stuff like that, from what I understand, that won't be the case. And I think that would be very much like the worst case scenario that could happen. And they're optimistic that that's not going to be the case. So from what I understand anyway, that's the word that I've heard so far. I'm not too worried. I think from what I understand, neither is his camp. So I think it was definitely blown out of proportions, especially on Monday when people were already talking about, oh well, he's going to miss the Carabao Cup final. He's going to miss this many games. I just think it's too early. Let's wait and see what happens in the next couple of days at Liverpool. Liverpool's doctors will know better as well. They'll have more prognosis, and obviously then there's Jurgen Klopp's press conference where we'll know more.
True.
And we'll know fully. But from what I understand, it's not the end of the world, as I saw some people's reactions on Twitter. And like I said, it's not strange to see another specialist as well, because a lot of people made that comment that, this just highlights that Liverpool's medical team is it's not in any shape or form a criticism towards Liverpool's medical team. It's just something that's quite normal, because Liverpool have some great doctors, some great medical experts in the field, some of the best in the field actually, but they're not going to be an expert at everything, and they're not going to know every player's tiny details inside and out. So sometimes it's completely normal to consult with a specialist, and Liverpool have done that throughout this season as well. I think Andy Robertson was another one who went to see a specialist in.
True. Yeah.
So it's nothing strange, and I don't know. I think people are blowing things out of proportion for sure.
Yeah, it does feel like we've not had a good Twitter meltdown for a while, and maybe.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac, and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Maybe just people, and I mean this in a positive way, there didn't seem to be after Arsenal, the general consensus, if you looked on social media, was like, it's done, let's move on, there's plenty to play for. Quite a mature response all round, realistically, you could say. So maybe we have been due on. And exactly like you said with Robbo, there was news, wasn't there, at the time that he did go to Aspetar Clinic, get that checked out for that. Specialists are consulted all the time in these types of situations. And Friday, we've not got to wait long till Jurgen Klopp's press conference. And I know people, when someone's going to be listening and jumping on me saying Klopp doesn't always tell the truth about that, me and Ben cannot decide or have no input in realistically, but we will get an update, as it were, there, which is hopefully favourable. And I'll fully trust Ben on this because, in simple terms, his Hungarian is 1,000 times better than mine naturally as well. Brill. So there, ladies and gents, is your Dominic SZOBOSZLAI update. Moving on this week, Ben, we've got, Burnley seems to be taking forever this game in a way, doesn't it? After a defeat, we've gone from almost a game every day practically, and the Reds are on a roll. Almost this little strange period of spacing where it's a game every week, almost like a mini pre-season, as someone said. It does feel massive. I might be making this up, but if someone asked me off the top of my head, I'd say Burnley at home. I reckon Liverpool's record is pretty good. Am I making this up, or do our stats bear it out?
Would it surprise you if I said our record recently is actually better away from home than at home?
Okay.
Obviously, Liverpool have only lost, since 1974, have only lost once at home to Burnley. So it does come with that caveat.
Yeah.
Which was in that awful run. I feel like every podcast we talk about it now, so we're just going to forget about it. But it was during that run where loads of records were broken at Anfield, and not to our favour as well. Liverpool's record against Burnley away from home is 6 wins in the last 6 games, whereas at home, obviously lost once in the last 6 games, drawn twice and won 3. So it's not a perfect record. But I don't know. I'm still feeling pretty confident. I think even though we were missing the lack of games, certainly sometimes I feel like I don't know what to do these days in the evenings for this next week. But I think it's a good thing that Liverpool's players are going to get a bit of respite. And I think I'm still feeling pretty confident. Like, if you look at Burnley's form, I think they've won 2 games since October the 7th.
Yeah.
They've only won 3 games in the Premier League overall, and 2 of those were against Luton and Sheffield United. So I don't know. I feel like this is at home at Anfield. This is a game like you should be winning, and if you're not, then you've got no right to be in the conversation for the league title.
Yeah.
So
great.
I just feel like it's a perfect opportunity to bounce back, and get a strong result, and that's what I'm fully expecting, really.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, and you never say there's an easy game in the Premier League, but if you could handpick your fixture, I think this would be in most people's top 3 at worst. Let's be completely clear and honest on that. It's whenever you think Burnley, you conjure the images of Sean Dyche, Ashley Barnes, 2 banks of 4, and a big target man, and we go from there. This is a very, very different Burnley, isn't it? It's quite expansive under Vincent Kompany and Craig Bellamy as an assistant. People have their thoughts on whether that's brave or foolish, maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But yeah, you look at their results. The Reds should be, I think you phrased it well, if we're going to be in this title hunt, this should be a nailed-on win. It really should be looked at that way. I know SZOBOSZLAI's out. I know he's a mutual favourite of ours. The person who came in from him Sunday, I'm sure you've seen, Ben, Ryan Gravenberch, hasn't been without questions, let's put it that way, against his name. In that, yeah, that's maybe the most polite way we can put it. If SZOBOSZLAI is out, which is fully expected, most people will have that prediction for Saturday, 3 p.m. Stats-wise, who are you thinking should come in to the lineup on that right-hand side?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting him to be rolled out for that one for sure.
Yeah.
That's for now, though, that's all we know for certain, that he's going to be ruled out for that one. But I think the rest is still open in the air, up in the air, rather. So I don't know. For me, it's a tough one. I mean, obviously, you have Harvey Elliott. I think he's very talented and he's quite useful. But what I would be more tempted with is to bring the man who's not really been talked about in the last sort of month or so, and rightfully so because he hasn't been with the squad. But I think, Wataru Endo is back this week. He's going to be training with the team this week. Obviously, I wrote an article for Anfield Index, sort of looking at how he did at the Asian Cup, and Japan didn't perform as they had expected, but I thought Endo was still in good form. I tried to watch most of his games, and if I didn't watch them live, I watched them back, and he was just doing what he was doing at Liverpool the month before in December. And I think if I was Jurgen Klopp anyway, I'd bring him back into this one, move McAllister further up the pitch. We haven't seen McAllister a lot in that right-sided midfield. But it was something that Liverpool sort of looked at, if I remember correctly, in pre-season. That's actually how Jurgen Klopp initially set up the midfield. He played SZOBOSZLAI on the left and McAllister on the right. So I think it is something that he can do. He's got the creativity, he's got the technical ability on the ball. I mean, that's the position he wants to play. So I think if he was given that chance against Burnley, it's a great opportunity to, make his sort of mark in his favoured position. And for me, Endo, I think is a good sort of game to come back into and readjust to the Premier League again, because obviously it's playing a completely different level in the Asian Cup. Obviously, sometimes you need a bit of an adjustment period from going from one level to the next. So I think it's a perfect game to sort of put Endo back into the starting lineup.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you're right. We've seen the Endo photos. He is back at AXA already, which is absolutely brilliant. And I know you're a big Endo fan. Stats bear that out. I know I've seen the article as well, which is great. I can totally understand why. People will have thoughts on this. I think for me, and looking at the stats and obviously goals and assists, I know Gravenberch had so few touches on Sunday. People will bring that into the equation. I'm not disputing that at all. There is a part of me, and it sounds like we're absolutely ragging on Burnley here, so to speak, but I would be, I'd hope whether it's Gravenberch stays in, Elliott comes in, Endo introduced, you'd hope the combination of those would still be enough to beat Burnley overall, wouldn't you? Match their midfield at least. So it will be interesting to see what Jurgen Klopp does in this one, even talk about, seen suggestions, McAllister next to Endo and Elliott in front, like a 4-2-3-1. It will be fascinating to see how he plays around with it. But yeah, full expectations here, ladies and gents, of a Liverpool victory. No exceptions on Sunday. And the final part of this, we want to lift it a bit, Ben, and I'm hoping you're going to lift it or you're going to kill our show here, so to speak. But positive runs on the back of defeats, because I've seen it on Twitter a lot and I get it. We always, maybe not though, as the case may be, we believe we always react well to a defeat. It's never about the setback, it's about the comeback. And we talk about this before. It's about going on runs, isn't it? Building momentum. And Christ, especially at the business end of the year, we'd love that more than ever, wouldn't we? Because it just feels with City rolling up, there is very to little to zero wiggle room in this. I'm hoping you're not going to kill our show, Ben, here. Have we got positive stats in regards to when we go on runs after defeats, or are you going to kill the dreams here and now?
I mean, obviously, this season when we lost against Tottenham.
Yeah.
The last time we then lost, I mean, the next time we then lost was this last weekend, I should say, in the Premier League anyway. So that's a pretty long stretch of games when Liverpool have gone unbeaten.
Yeah.
The first game back was a draw. I should sort of include that caveat against Brighton.
I remember that one.
Just before the international break. So it wasn't necessarily maybe the perfect response, but the only other game that Liverpool have lost this season was the one against Toulouse, and then Liverpool bounced back and beat Brentford 3-0.
Yeah.
And that was a game at Anfield, so maybe that's better of a comparison looking ahead to Burnley. Then obviously the title winning season, when we lost to Watford, came out of nowhere. We were all just like,
yeah, true.
Great, Liverpool are never going to lose again. And then Watford sort of surprised us and beat us that time. The next game back, which was the last game before the COVID-19 restrictions, Liverpool won again. And then obviously like they only played again until June. So yes, there were a few defeats in that time in June, but it's hard to, you know, like make that comparison with this season when you're in full flow and you're training.
True.
So I think the most accurate comparisons to look back on is the 21-22 season when Liverpool again were competing for the title, and they've only lost twice that season. One was against West Ham in November, and after that Liverpool won their next 6 games and went on a long run.
Nice.
But those 6 games included a 4-0 against Arsenal, by the way, and a 4-1 at Everton as well. Then Leicester beat Liverpool I think it was the last game before the new year, on like the 28th of December or something like that. And then again, Liverpool won like the next 10 games out of 12, and the only 2 draws in that time was with Manchester City and Chelsea. So again, 2 teams, like, it's not the worst scenario to draw to. But again, you know, Liverpool went on pretty good runs in that season after defeat and bounced back very quickly. I mean, obviously, the end of the season didn't quite pan out
the
way Liverpool wanted, but yeah, let's hope this time around it's different. I'm pretty sure the draw against Man City in that one, although I might be wrong in this, was away from home, whereas now we're facing them at Anfield. So obviously we've already played the more difficult fixture away from home, and I think to really sort of put us in a positive mood and lift us up, there's 15 games left now until the end of the season. If Liverpool win those 15 games, they win the title. I mean, it's that simple, really. Everything is still in our hands. We don't have to be hoping for anyone else to drop points. It would have been nice to get a result against Arsenal, but you know, it's us whose hands the league title is in, not theirs. It's us and City still who, you know, we will decide who wins the title, basically, essentially. So I wouldn't say it's doom and gloom yet. There's plenty still to play for. It's a marathon and it's a battle and it's a war, and we just lost a tiny little game from what's ahead. And I think, you know, it's okay to do that sometimes. It's okay to lose every now and again. The only team who managed to go unbeaten in a whole season was Arsenal's invincible. It just happens. You know, you do lose games, and I don't think there's any shame in losing to a really good Arsenal team who were playing in a really good atmosphere as well. Probably one of the best atmospheres I've seen at the Emirates in a long time. Obviously, their fans were really up for it, and credit to them. They gave it their all as well for them to get the result. And on top of that, I think as well, what makes me feel better is like it could have easily been a draw. Like, Arsenal didn't deserve to win that much. Yes, they were the better team. They created more chances. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't for the Alisson Van Dijk mistake, which I think, if you replay that situation a million times, I don't think they make that mistake again. It's just that one time in this reality that it's happened. But I think apart from that, if that doesn't happen, I think Liverpool could have still gotten a result and gotten a draw, which we said last week it wouldn't have been the end of the world. It's a result we would have taken.
Yeah, no doubts about that at all. And there are some positives. It would be good to go on a 10-game unbeaten run that you mentioned, or straight away. It would be great to win all 15, as you also said. That would really just answer all the questions we have. But we are confident people. We talked about this, that this is a bit of a strange time, the spacing of games a week apart. And we know from here it's going to go crazy. But maybe, just maybe, in the long run, we might look at this as the pivotal period where we got players back, refreshed, ready to go. So, yeah, we'll have news on SZOBOSZLAI. They'll have news on Endo come Friday. We may, no promises, even have news on Mo Salah. I don't think Ben's connection network does spread quite that far and wide and in that many countries, but who knows? So he cleared it up. He gave us the SZOBOSZLAI news. I'm about to take him to task when we finish this recording as to why he didn't give me the exclusive of the info, but that is a different and aggressive discussion we'll have altogether. So all it really leaves me to say is, Ben, as ever, thanks for the time, thanks for the stats, and thanks for the insight.
Yeah, a pleasure. I'm sorry I couldn't set a date. I'm sure a lot of people were wondering what if I'm going to say which game he's going to be back, but it's a muscle injury. Anything could happen. He could come back to training and he could feel it tighten again, and then he'll be out for a couple of weeks. So I don't want to set a date yet, but I think certainly don't believe every news that you read.
Yeah, very wise, Ben. I think the fans don't always forgive Jurgen Klopp, it seems, if he gives injury updates that aren't to the day. So I would not start now at all. Ladies and gents, though, Burnley on the horizon, cup final tickets. Good luck if you're in the ballot. Hope everyone's been successful who's listening. And that was another Stat Me Up for Anfield Index.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
Sports Social Podcast Network.